Have you noticed how the future can feel like a hallway with the lights turned off? You know there's something out there, somewhere ahead, but all you see is darkness and all you hear is your own breath. You ask, what if I'm not enough? What if I make the wrong choice? What if everything falls apart? And then the questions start eating you from the inside, one bite at a time. If that sounds like you, you're not broken, you're human. And Viktor Frankl would say, your fear is not proof that you lack strength. It's a signal that your life is asking for meaning, not certainty. Let me take you by the hand and walk you into Frankl's world for a moment. He was a psychiatrist who survived the camps. He watched a future collapse into barbed wire and cold mornings and numbers on forearms. He saw how people withered when they lost any reason to go on, and he saw how people held themselves together when they gripped a thread of meaning. Frankl discovered something shocking. Humans can bear almost anyhow if they have a why, and even when we can't alter the situation, we can always choose our attitude toward it. That small freedom is the hinge on which everything turns. So if your chest tightens when you think about tomorrow, if your throat closes when someone asks, what's your plan? This isn't just anxiety, it's a hunger. And hunger is not your enemy. Hunger points you to what you need. Let's slow down. When the future terrifies you, your mind starts racing. You build catastrophe in your head, like a movie director, bigger budget, bigger explosions, everything in ruins. Then you doom scroll, searching for evidence your fear is true, and you find plenty. Wars, layoffs, storms with names. Your nervous system hears the alarms and decides you should freeze. That freeze feels like safety, but it robs you of the only thing that creates a future: action, even small. Frankl would walk into that freeze with you. He wouldn't tell you, stop being scared. He would ask a quieter, braver question. What is life asking of you right now? Not in 5 years, not after you become a perfect person. Right now. Because meaning is not a prize at the end of a long race. Meaning is a task of the hour. When you find that task, fear starts to shift. The hallway gains a flicker of light. Here's the core frame Frankl used to guide people through dark times. There are 3 doors to meaning, and you can knock on any one of them today. The first is creative values, what you give to the world. The second is experiential values, what you receive from the world. Love, beauty, truth. And the third is attitudinal values, how you choose to stand when suffering won't move. You don't need all 3 at once. One door is enough. But before we choose a door, we have to stop staring at the darkness. Anxiety loves attention, and attention is the currency of your life. Spend it well. Frankl called this shift dereflection. Instead of staring at your symptoms, you look outward toward the task, the person, the moment that needs you. You move the spotlight from fear to meaning. Let's make this concrete. Imagine you're afraid of losing your job. You refresh your email like it's a life support line. You run numbers in your head until you feel sick. You see a future where you fail, where you disappoint everyone, where you can't pay rent. In that movie, you're helpless. Pause that movie. Ask Frankl's question, what is life asking of me right now? Maybe it's asking for honesty, updating your resume. Maybe it's asking for courage, having a real conversation with your manager. Maybe it's asking for service, helping a coworker close a project so both of you become harder to cut. Maybe it's asking for dignity, showing up on time, clean shirt, clear eyes, even if your hands shake. These are meaning tasks. They don't guarantee safety. They guarantee a way to hold yourself, and that changes you. Or imagine you're afraid of a diagnosis. You're waiting for results. Every ping on your phone sounds like doom. Frankl would not promise a miracle. He would say, you still own the space between the stimulus and your response. In that space is your last freedom. The test result will come when it comes. You can choose how to live the next hour. Call someone you love, sit under sunlight, write the sentence you've been avoiding. You can't command the future, but you can command your attitude. That is not nothing, that is power. I want to teach you 2 tools Frankl used to diffuse anticipatory anxiety, the fear of fear itself. The first is paradoxical intention. In plain English, aim at the thing you fear, on purpose, with a touch of humor. If you fear blushing during a presentation, you whisper to yourself, today I will blush so bright they'll think the room is on fire. This absurd permission breaks the feedback loop, where fear of fear becomes more fear. Try it with your future fears. If you dread saying something stupid in the interview, tell yourself you will try to say one stupid thing with confidence. You'll be amazed at how your tension falls when you stop fighting the ghost. The second tool is dereflection, which we talked about. When you're tightly focused on your own pulse, you shrink the world to your body. Dereflection asks you to turn outward. Instead of how do I feel, ask what needs doing. Instead of what if I fail, ask who can I help fail less. Instead of will they like me, ask how can I make them feel seen. The world grows again. Your fear shrinks in that bigger space. Let's talk about the illusion that paralyzes so many of us. We think the future is a verdict, as if life is a court and we're waiting for the judge to decide if we're worthy. Frankl flips that. The future is not a verdict, it's a question, and meaning is your answer. Not in poetry, in practice. Practice begins with the smallest next step tied to a value. If you value responsibility and you're scared about finances, the next step is 5 minutes of clarity. Open your bank app. Write numbers on one page. Choose the one bill you'll address today. If you value love and you're scared of being alone, the next step is 5 minutes of courage. Send one message. Schedule one coffee. Ask one person a real question. If you value growth and you're scared of career failure, the next step is 20 minutes of craft. Improve. One paragraph, one line of code, one chord transition. The step is tiny on purpose, and it's tied to meaning on purpose. Fear hates momentum. Momentum is the medicine. Frankl called his attitude in the face of unavoidable suffering tragic optimism. It's not naive. It's not telling yourself pineapple tastes like steak. Tragic optimism looks at pain and says, I can make something of you. You can become achievement if I endure you well. You can become change if I learn and act differently. You can become responsibility if you remind me life is short and precious. Pain turns into purpose through how I answer it. You might ask, how do I keep this alive when the headlines are heavy and my body is tired? You ritualize meaning, not in a rigid, punishing way, in a gentle, rhythmic way. Every morning, finish this sentence in your own words. Today, life asks me to. Keep it specific and small. Today, life asks me to show up for my kid's science project with attention. Today, life asks me to apologize for that sharp comment. Today, life asks me to send 3 job applications and eat lunch like it matters. This ritual turns the future from a fog into a task. And every evening, run a compassionate audit, not a beating. Ask 3 questions. Where did I live my values? Where did I avoid them? What's the smallest repair I can make tomorrow? Then go to sleep not to escape, but to gather strength for the next answer life will request. You may wonder how this plays out when the fear is global, climate, economy, war, culture. Frankl would remind you that your sphere of control is where your meaning lives. You can grieve the world and still act on your street. Pick one cause, one neighbor, one school, one creek to clean, one student to mentor. When you invest in something bigger than yourself, your future stops being a threat and becomes a mission. Missions don't erase anxiety. They give it a place to sit while you work. Let me share a simple exercise to shift from fear to direction. I call it the 3 doors in 3 minutes. First minute, creative value. Ask, what small thing can I create today that serves someone an email of thanks? A document that clarifies, a meal, a clean counter. Second minute, experiential value. Ask, what simple beauty can I receive today on purpose? A slow walk, 3 deep breaths by a window. A song with headphones and eyes closed, a memory written down. Third minute, attitudinal value. Ask, what attitude will I choose when the first hard thing hits? Patience, humor, dignity, persistence. Write 1 sentence per minute. That's it. You now have 3 anchors in the day. Fear still whispers, but it speaks into a room filled with meaning. A quick story. A man came to Frankl, shattered by grief. His wife had died, and the future felt like an endless, empty road. He asked for relief. Frankl didn't say, "Time heals." He asked the man a question. If you had died first, what would have happened to her? The man said, she would have suffered terribly. Frankl nodded. Then he said, then you have spared her that suffering. At this price, you have taken the pain upon yourself. The man left with tears, but also with a frame. His pain acquired dignity. It didn't vanish, it gained meaning, and meaning changes our posture, even in sorrow. You can do something similar with your fear. Ask, what pain am I willing to carry so someone I love suffers less? What burden can I take today that turns me into a shelter for one person? Fear shrinks when love grows. Now, I want to address a common trap: perfectionism in purpose. We think the meaningful answer must be grand. Start a company, write a book, adopt 12 kids. You see the gap between where you are and the grand vision, and you freeze. Frankl's wisdom cuts through that. Meaning is not measured in applause. Meaning is measured in truth. A true act, done in the truth of your situation, has weight. Small truths accumulate. If the future terrifies you, you don't need a master plan. You need the smallest honest act. The plan will grow out of repeated honesty. Here's a breath you can use when panic starts forecasting disaster. Inhale and say, in this breath, I am here. Exhale and say, in this breath, I can choose. Inhale, I am here. Exhale, I can choose. Do that 4 times. Then ask, what is my task right now? Put your hands on the task. Let your hands teach your mind that you have agency. Now, we need to talk about identity. Fear of the future often ties itself to a fragile identity. I am valuable only if I succeed, only if I impress, only if I control everything. That identity is a house of glass. Frankl's view sets you on bedrock. You are not what happens to you. You are the one who responds. Your identity is built by the values you repeatedly choose when circumstances won't obey you. You become the person who answers life faithfully, imperfectly, day by day. That's sturdier than any fantasy of control. Let's ground this in a practical weekly rhythm. On Sunday evening, don't ask, what do I want from this week? Ask, what does this week ask from me? List 3 answers. Keep them connected to your values. Maybe it asks for courage. Make that phone call and tell the truth. Maybe it asks for discipline. Finish the draft. Submit the application. Maybe it asks for presence. Put your phone in a drawer for 2 hours each night with your family. And then, each morning, pick one micro-task that answers that weekly ask. By Friday, you won't merely have survived 5 anxious days. You'll have given 5 meaningful answers. We also need to address anticipatory grief, the sadness that arrives because you imagine future loss in detail. You can meet it with 2 gestures. First, gratitude now, while the thing you fear losing is still here. Eat dinner like it's the last time you'll taste that recipe. Hug like you're memorizing someone's shape. Look at the sky and say thank you out loud to no one and to everything. Second, preparation not to control, but to honor. If you fear losing a job, build a savings cushion. Update your skills. Network like it's a privilege to know other humans. If you fear losing someone, record their stories, write letters, say what you mean. These gestures don't make you invulnerable. They make you wholehearted. There's a quiet superpower in Frankl's work. When we lift our eyes from our pain and turn toward a purpose larger than ourselves, we gain energy from the very thing we serve. That's why volunteers often feel more alive than consumers. That's why a tired parent can get up at 3 a.m. again and again. Their purpose pulls them out of bed when their mood would not. If the future terrifies you, attach your days to something that does not depend on your mood. People, projects, promises. Here's a challenge. For the next 7 days, identify one person who will be better off because you lived that day. It could be your neighbor who finds a note on their door, your coworker who gets an unasked for tutorial, your grandmother who receives a phone call with patience inside it. Then, at night, ask, who was better off today because I was here? If you can answer that honestly most days, you're building a future worth walking into. Let's get practical with fear mapping. Take a page. On the left write the title. Worst case movie. Spend 2 minutes writing the fearful script. Don't censor. On the right, write smallest true action. For each scene in your worst case movie, write one action that's within your control. Future layoff. You can update your resume, take a free course, introduce yourself to 2 people in your field each week. Break up. You can schedule counseling, return to a craft you abandoned, open your home to your friends on Sundays. Illness. You can set up help, ask better questions, choose tenderness with your body. The page will not erase the fear. It will give fear a partner, direction. Quick pause. What is life asking of you this week, in 1 sentence? Share it in the comments. If this helped steady you, subscribe so these Frankl-inspired episodes find you when you need them most. We've talked a lot about action, but meaning also arrives in how you receive what you didn't choose. Experiential values matter. Go find something beautiful on purpose today. The world is not only a headline, it is also the way light spills across a kitchen table at 4 p.m., the quiet between songs when you're driving, the human face of the barista who hands you a cup. Beauty is not an escape, it's fuel for responsibility. When you receive it consciously, you become more able to give. And when suffering digs in and will not move, when the future is not a fog but a storm with a namu, have that last door to meaning, your attitude. People misunderstand this. It's not cheerful denial. It's noble defiance. It's looking at the thing you cannot change and saying, I will not let you tell me who I am. I may be bent, but I will not be broken in my essence. My dignity is mine. Watch me choose. If you're in a hospital bed, your attitude may be gentle humor with nurses, Gratitude for the tech who draws blood at 5 a.m. Blessing the stranger in the next bed who groans in the night. If you're unemployed, your attitude may be disciplined mornings. A clean shirt even for your own desk. 1 hour of skill building before the sun is fully up. If you're heartbroken, your attitude may be refusing to turn your pain into cruelty toward the next person. Each of these is a response that builds you. A word about anger. Anxiety often hides anger at the world for being unpredictable. You can admit that. You can tell the truth. I'm angry because I wanted guarantees and life offers none. Then you can choose. Do I make my anger useful? Anger becomes courage when you move it toward protecting something tender. Anger becomes fuel when you channel it into building instead of burning. Let your anger be a compass pointing toward what matters. Then answer that direction with skill, not rage. Some of you feel crushed by choice. Too many doors, too many paths. Choice overload can be its own terror. Frankl frees you from the fantasy that there is one perfect choice. There is only the next faithful choice. Make it. It will teach you the next one. You are not choosing the final shape of your life. You are choosing the next truthful step. Remember the 3 doors. If creative is blocked today, lean into experiential. If experiential feels far, lean into it. If you can't give, receive. If you can't receive, decide your attitude. That flexibility is freedom. Let me offer a few one-sentence prompts you can carry in your pocket when fear starts its speech. What is the task of this hour? Who needs me right now? What can I create that serves someone today? What beauty can I let in, right now, for 60 seconds? What attitude fits the truth of this moment? If you ask and answer even one of these, fear has to share space with meaning. And meaning is a better roommate. If you want a small daily practice that shifts your center, try this every morning. Choose a word that names your value for the day: steadiness, kindness, courage, craft. Write it on a sticky note. Put it where your eyes land often. Then, when fear whispers, touch the note with your fingers. Say the word out loud. Then do the next 5-minute act that matches that word. This is not gimmickry, it's training. You are training your attention to serve your purpose, not your fear. And finally, a closing image. Imagine your future not as a courtroom with a judge, but as a workshop with an open door, tools on the bench, light leaning through a dusty window. Some mess you made yesterday, some wood you'll shape today. The world will keep being the world, loud, chaotic, full of storms. But you will keep walking into that workshop. You will pick up one tool. You will shape one thing that matters. You will receive one moment of beauty like a gift. You will choose one attitude that keeps your dignity intact. And those small, steady answers will add up to a life that can face the future without flinching. The hallway doesn't need every light turned on. It needs one lamp, and then another. You carry those lamps in your pockets, in your values, in your choices. Frankl's wisdom is not a slogan. It's the hand you can place on your own shoulder when the wind picks up. It says, you are not a victim of the future. You are its partner. Life is asking. Answer with meaning today.